Hello, everybody. What we'll do is just, if everybody just gives a real brief intro, so Jane knows who you all are. Jane's going to be the guest speaker today, and then we'll leave it to do a thing and have some questions and answers at the end of it. So, just name where you're from, what you do, what you need help with if you need any help, and then we'll come over to you, Jane. God, I've just seen myself in camera. Well, I'm actually embarrassed. It's been recorded. I've been avoiding mirrors since I've been ill. So I'll just look through the screen. Anne, welcome, Anne. I think it's your first time, eh? Hello.
Hi, Michaela. Hi, Jane. Hi, everyone. My name's Anne O'Caffer, and I'm a construction project manager based in Scotland. I do a lot of work with STEM and schools and things like that, so encouraging the next generation into construction. I'm here just to listen and learn at the moment, but something maybe come up along the way. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Anne. Melissa, hello.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. I connected to this group with the help of Michaela. She used to be my mentor. I specialize in the architecture industry, and I run my small company in North London with working with residential clients mostly and private developers.
Thanks, Melissa. Nice to see you again. Claire, hello. Claire Parkinson.
Hi everybody, I'm Claire, I work for Innovex. Just to let you know, I'm actually leaving at the end of the month to pursue a bit more of health and safety, to reset, renew. So if anybody's got any help or any assistance on that, it'd be greatly received, and looking forward to the hike.
Oh, amazing. I'm actually dreading the hike, Claire, but I'm glad some people are bringing the energy. Gemma seems too excited for me. I don't have that level. I think she's going to run the hike.
You'll be at the back, Michaela, just walking very slowly up the back, I think.
Catherine's like, bring 2 litres of water. I thought, I'll bring 2 litres of champagne, Catherine, don't worry about that. There we go. Sam Lester, hello.
Hiya. So yeah, I'm Sam Lester from Bourne Group. We're a specialist steel fabricator, and yeah, really interested in today's topic. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Sam. Nicola D'Souza, have I said that right?
You have. You said it perfectly. Well done. Yeah, I'm Nicola D'Souza. I am the Central Hub Director for the Federation of Master Builders. It's my first meeting. I must have stumbled across this via LinkedIn, but yeah, it's my first time.
Well, welcome, Nicola. Hopefully you find it useful. We try our best. There's lots of menopause chat in the main group, so if you've got any experience with that, you'll be able to join in. I'm sweating thinking about it. Nicola Hodgkinson, hello. Welcome.
Hello, how are you? Hi, I'm Nicola Hodgkinson. I'm director and owner at Seddon Construction, or Seddon Group. We're a group of construction companies, Midlands and Northwest, but I'm also an advisor for Girls Out Loud, so I know Jane very well. Yay!
Welcome, Nicola. Thanks for joining us. And then Julie and Natasha have got blank screens, so I'm guessing they might just be listening in, so I'll leave them to it. So, yes, Jen, thank you for joining us today and agreeing to be our guest speaker. This is recorded as well, and we'll put it in the hub afterwards and be sharing the links on social media just for everybody's reference if you are going to be speaking and whatnot. And if you don't want to look like this, then blank your screens out. So, yeah, Jen, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So when I read the thing that you put out yesterday, I thought, oh my goodness, I can talk about all those things in 20 minutes. So what I thought I would do is talk about my life in 3 acts and maybe share some of the lessons from each of those acts, and then particularly where I am now, and why I do what I do, and what my passion is, and then you can ask me whatever you want. So I am 60 this year. That's a very scary thought, but there you go. And my first act was when I left school, and I left home at the same time at 16. So I had quite a difficult time when I was a youngster. So I was alone and broke at 16. And so the first act began for me to climb the corporate ladder. So I was a corporate bunny, and I was a complete workaholic. I spent 10 years climbing the corporate ladder. I worked stupid hours. I don't even remember taking holidays. I kind of was studying at the same time. So, and I was doing all of this, not for me. I was doing all of this to prove to a certain father that I didn't need him and that I didn't need his money, which he told me that I did. And so I was on a mission to kind of impress everybody else other than myself. So at 29, I had the big job. I was a marketing and brand director for a big company. I had the corner office, the big team, the multi-million-pound budget, the company car, the nice house, a reasonable relationship. And at 29, I had a breakdown because I just couldn't see a way out and I couldn't see anywhere else to go. I was the most qualified person around the board table. I'd got 2 degrees, 3 postgraduate diplomas, an MBA. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I just suddenly one day lost my voice. And there was no kind of physical reason for that. It was clearly stress. It was quite interesting that I did lose my voice because my voice is my profession. It's my key tool. So I realized that I needed to think about doing something different. So at 29, I left the corporate world and I started my second act. And my second act was as a serial entrepreneur. So for the next 12 years, I ran lots of different businesses. I bought some businesses, I developed and grew some businesses. I went into partnerships with people. I kind of bought stuff, all in the business to business sector. And some of those businesses were really successful and made me very wealthy. And some of them took me to the point of bankruptcy. So I've had that very typical entrepreneurial journey, but I've learned everything that I've needed to know about myself when I've been stood in the shadow of failure. So I've learned who I am. I've learned whether I've had the right people around me. I've learned whether I'm passionate enough about what I'm doing to kind of step back up and carry on with it. I've learned where my loyalties are. I've learned everything I needed to know. And I am a risk taker. So I am quite a typical entrepreneur. I'm not scared by risk. Obviously calculated risk. I'm not taking silly risks, but I do take risks. And when you take risks, then, you know, quite often you fail. But I don't really have a problem with failure. And so this is one of my lessons, really. I see failure as fuel. I see failure as necessary to lead a good life. And I always say to people, you know, if you're not failing, then, you know, you're not really taking enough risks in your life. And if you're not taking enough risks in your life, then you're sat in your comfort zone where everything's familiar and everything feels safe. And if you're constantly sat in your comfort zone, then for me, you're leading a mediocre life and not one that's worthy of you. And I always say to people, you know, that is not one word anybody would ever use to describe me. And it's not a word that's going to be on my gravestone or in my eulogy. You know, and nobody's going to say, you know, today we celebrate Jane, she led a mediocre life. That is not going to happen. And so I embrace risk and I encourage you to. And because that's where all the lessons are. And this is what I talk to young girls about all the time. You know, take the risk, step out of that comfort zone, because life begins at the end of your comfort zone. That's where all the good stuff happens. It's where the magic happens. It's where the brilliant people are, because they're not sat in their comfort zone. You know, they're out there making it happen, taking the risks. So that's kind of really important to me. And the other thing I learned through being an entrepreneur is that it's really, really key to do what you love and to love what you do. Because if you don't, when you hit the bumps, you give up, you quit. And so, you know, you've really got to love what you do, because the bumps will appear, as they will in anybody's career, to be honest. If you're climbing a ladder, if you're pushing, then bumps and obstacles are going to appear. And if you're not really that passionate about what you're doing, you'll quit. And then you'll have to start somewhere else, you know, at a different level. So, you know, you need to be passionate about what you do. And if you're not passionate what you do, then you need to find out what that is. You need to find that passion. And that might take some people longer than others. I think if I was really honest with myself, I hit my passion at around 35. And, you know, it was all related to people. And I only kind of got there because I kind of had, again, this really, it was really up and down entrepreneurial act, which was my second act. And I got to the end of my 30s and I thought, okay, what am I going to do next? Because I'm getting a bit bored with this. I'm getting a bit, it all feels like the same. You know, I set up a business, I grow it, I sell it. I buy a business, I grow it, I sell it. I know how to run a business. I know how to make money. So now what am I going to do? Because I'm only in my late 30s and I'm bored. And I need to find the next act. And quite interestingly for me, when I started thinking about that, I also met the man of my dreams. So when I kind of stepped back a little bit and went, okay, now what? You know, there was kind of a different energy around me and, you know, a different dynamic. And that happened. And I wasn't out looking for him. It just happened. And so I took the opportunity to take a year out of work. I'd never done that before. So I took the opportunity to go traveling with him. And I did that. And while I was doing it, I didn't get to the year. I got to about 8 months and I thought, right, I'm bored now. Now I need to get back in. And I'd been reflecting on what I was good at, because I thought, whatever I do next, I've got to be absolutely 100% in it. And I've got to be absolutely 100% in my flow. So doing stuff that I know that I am good at, and that is not easy for me, but comes naturally to me. So what is it that I do, and I have done all my life, that comes naturally to me? And again, I ask you that question. Think about that question, because what we don't value what's easy. We only seem to value something if it's really hard. So it's really hard work. We go, oh, that must be, you know, what I'm here to do. But it's the complete opposite, because actually the value is in what you find easy, because what you find easy is somebody else's hard. And so you should be doing what comes naturally to you. And I call that flow. So, you know, are you in flow? Does work feel really hard at the moment? Or does it feel naturally, you know, like you're in flow? And it all works and it all comes together. And when you do that, that happens, and you meet the right people and you attract the right colleagues and you attract the right business. You know, that's flow. If you're not doing that, then you may be in the wrong job, or you may be in the wrong company, or you may be surrounded by the wrong people. So what did I do well? And what I did well, what I've always done well, is I've always been the person that switches the light on for other people. That is kind of one of my superpowers. So I've done it ever since I was in my early 20s. I was always the manager that everybody came to for advice. I was always the person in meetings that said, you know what, why don't we do this? And everyone was like, oh my goodness, why don't we think about that? And Jane, can I talk to you about this? And if we do that, you know, I've got a concern about this. I was a natural coach before we'd even heard of coaches. You know, today everybody's a coach, aren't they? But, you know, before that was even a profession in the UK, I was probably doing that without knowing I was doing it. So I thought, all right, well, that's what I need to do then. That's what I need to do. So in that time off, I trained to be a coach. And because Jane is a person that fully immerses in everything, I also trained to be a cognitive behavior therapist. I also trained to be a counselor. I also trained to be an NLP master. So I did all of this stuff fully immersed in 6 months. And then I came back off this so-called year off, and I set up a coaching practice. And I entered my third act, if you like. And so I started coaching, and I attracted lots of women. And so I started coaching women. And, you know, here come the next load of lessons, because what really floored me was I was attracting these, what I would call powerhouse women. So amazing women to my practice. And they would sit in my chair and I would think, why do you need a coach? You are awesome. You know, you're a equity partner at this law firm, or you're an entrepreneur running a 2, 3, 4 million pound company, or you're an exec director in a big firm. What are you doing here? Why do you need a coach? And it wasn't long before I worked out why. So, you know, asking the right questions, listening to the lack of confidence, self-belief, listening to the fear of failure or rejection, listening to the fear of being alone, so I'm staying in this relationship. This thing that we call the imposter syndrome, that I don't even believe exists. I'm obviously very controversial about that, but I think that's a label we kind of adopted, you know, because we do that as women. We adopt labels and identities and we go, oh yeah, I think I've got that. We've all got that. We all sometimes feel that we don't belong in a certain place. We all sometimes feel that, you know, we're taking on a job that's too big. We all sometimes think, oh my goodness, I'm not sure if I can do this. Men as well, we all do that. It's natural. It's natural progression if you're in a career or you're building something, that you're going to have moments when you feel like that. But we'd already started calling this the imposter syndrome. So I'd already got women coming sitting in my coaching chair telling me they got the imposter syndrome. I mean, how do you know you've got the imposter syndrome? Yeah. So unravel that. And it's all about self-belief. It's all about confidence. So I started coaching women. I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then in 2004, I set up a company called the Well-Heeled Divas because I wanted to connect all these women. So after coaching maybe 100 women, who were all displaying exactly the same behavior issues and all had exactly the same challenges going on, I wanted to start connecting them. So I set up Well-Heeled Divas to do that, to run peer groups for women and to run coaching circles. But also I started working on a much bigger platform. So I started running motivational events for women. I started running retreats, personal development weekends, and I became in my next act, which is all about female empowerment. So, you know, if you cut me down the middle like a stick of Blackpool rock, you would see the words female empowerment. That is who I am. That is what I do. So at Well-Heeled Divas, I work with thousands of women. I train thousands of coaches, hundreds of coaches. And that work led me to what I now do, which is definitely my third act, which my third act is legacy. And that led me to working with teenage girls, because I started to think to myself, you know what, all these things that are going on for women, we need to get to them earlier. We need to be sending girls out of school ready to go. You know, feeling empowered, feeling in the zone, confident, resilient, with a sense of authenticity, which we're not talked about, which is absolutely key, which is the opposite of the imposter syndrome. Because all the imposter syndrome is you're not being authentic. Just think about that. If you are really being true to yourself and being you, and being vulnerable when you want to be vulnerable, and being strong when you want to be strong, and being real, then there'd be no such thing as the imposter syndrome. It wouldn't exist. Okay, so what we call the imposter syndrome is a lot of the times is us actually fighting against being who we are. We're fighting against being authentic because for some reason the organization we work in won't allow us to be authentic. It demands that we follow a certain path. It demands that we behave in a certain way because that's the culture, because that's the values of the organization. And for you women who are working in a pretty male-dominated sector, you know, I've worked with a lot of women in that sector, and I know Nick's on the same page as me here, where, you know, we are attempting to behave like women in a very male-dominated world. And that's tough. Because, you know, the natural kind of position would be, actually, I need to get to that position. I need to behave like a man. I've heard women say to me in a lot of sectors that men have said to them, you know, if you want to behave like a woman here, you can forget your career. Forget having a career. Yeah, so we still have things to do there. And that's why we've all of a sudden gone, oh, it's the imposter syndrome. It really isn't. It really isn't. It's about us being authentic. So back to third act. 2009, I piloted a program with a group of girls in a school in Blackpool. These were girls that were at risk of being permanently excluded, at risk of being groomed, recruited into gangs, recruited into county lines, at risk of getting pregnant early because they were dating older boys, coming from really complex, chaotic home lives, with probably DV, sexual abuse, all sorts of things going on in their home. And I'd never worked with girls like that before. Long story short, it was a baptism of fire. It kind of changed my life. And so after that program, I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to teenage girls. And I set up Girls Out Loud social enterprise in 2010. And we're 14 years down the line. We've worked with around 30,000 girls. We've worked in over 70 schools. And we're all about empowering those girls to believe in themselves. All the same things I've said to you: believe in themselves, be true to themselves, respect themselves, have some resilience about them, find their voice, find their gumption, truly empower them so that they make better life choices, so that they have a better life and they move into the world of work and pick up the baton from us. And they do it with gumption and with visibility and knowing who they are. And so that's what we do. And we're all really about role models, because that is my life's work, if you like, is about saying to us as women that we need to be that role models. And so what do we need to do to make sure that we're behaving in that way? Because you're not automatically a role model just because you're female. You know, we have to be getting our lives vaguely right to be that model to pass on to them. So we need to be their role models rather than the Kardashians or the Insta girls or the Love Island girls. It's us. It's us, real women. And they need us to show them the way, because the landscape that they are navigating today is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. You know, they're dealing with sexual assault in school. They're dealing with boys that are addicted to porn in school. You know, they're dealing with like really low body confidence in school. They've got serious mental health issues and no support for that. And all of this is going on. Then we're expecting them to have high aspiration, when the aspiration is the very last thing on their agenda, because they're dealing with all these other things first. So they need us to go in and show them a different way. And that's what we do. We train women to be mentors, and we connect them to a girl. We run programs for the vulnerable girls in school. We have a team of coaches. We run workshops. We run role model relay events like speed mentoring events. And that really is my legacy. You know, that's kind of where my journey has taken me. And I really am truly in my passion today. So I think I've probably done my 20 minutes there, haven't I? Yeah. So I'm really happy for us to have a discussion about any of those things. Or has anything kind of made you think, or did you write anything down that you thought, yes, I need to think about that? Or is there anything you would like to ask me?
Oh, thanks, Jane. That was super informative and compact as well, because you've done an awful lot there. So,
yes, I tried.
I personally brought some things in and got some questions, but I don't know if I don't want to hog this and I can barely speak. So does anybody else want to ask anything or say anything first before I go?
Can I just say, I'm at a crux of my career at the moment, where I've left a job, got nothing to go to, and I've literally put book an appointment to meet Jane. So maybe I need to come and see you, so you can help me make the right decision of where I need to go next in life.
Yeah,
I have a little project of my own going on, which is boiling in the background, but obviously I also need a career to keep me sort of in money while this other, hopefully this other project kicks off. But yeah, so I'm like, let's find Jane. I've got the website open.
Yeah. Well, I honor your courage. I honor your courage. Because it takes it's a bold move to do that. So there's obviously something in you that's saying, this is not good enough for me. This is not what I need. It's not what I want. And, you know, when you do that and you burn the bridge behind you, things have a way of happening. They have a way of coming to you, and because you freed yourself from the heavy burden of doing something you didn't want to do. So I honor that, and I look forward to talking to you more about it.
Yeah, also with me, I'll shut up in a minute, but being 54 as well, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm probably a little bit scared about everything, but I know that if I carry on doing what I'm doing, life's not going to be good.
Yeah, you're going to fall over, aren't you?
So I need to do me rather than do everything for everybody else. Yeah, exactly. But thank you, that's been really inspiring.
Oh, thanks, Claire. Yeah, I wanted to speak to you. Obviously, you mentioned imposter syndrome a lot there, and I am in agreement. I feel like, you know, everybody's got depression now, and actually you are just sad. It's just a sad situation what you're in, and people attach themselves to these labels. It becomes extreme. You overthink situations. But what I would give you is, people still do think that. You know, you said you started this in 2004, and we're literally 20 years on. It was 2004, 20 years ago, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
20 years on.
yeah.
And I'm having the same conversation with women who are saying the same things as well. You know, they've got imposter syndrome. It's something that I can't really relate to, and I've never really understood why, but I think it is because of what you were saying, always being authentically yourself. Then you can't feel like an imposter in your own person, or in this situation, you know, feeling like an imposter. But I think when you go into it with an open mind of, oh, I'm going to learn something here, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the best person in the room, then again, you don't really get this imposter syndrome. But what is your advice on tackling that? Like, what are the key things to stop women from thinking they've got it, they've caught it?
I think there's a thing going on here with women about this need to be perfect and this need to be liked universally. Yeah, so we do everything to make sure that everybody likes us, and that's not reality. You know, everybody's not going to like you, okay? And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you've got imposter syndrome. It just means that actually not everybody's going to like you, and you just need to like accept that, okay? You need to accept that. And you know, this whole thing about, oh, you know, I'm going to get found out, or I've got this imposter syndrome going on. I don't even think a lot of people understand what that means. I don't think they understand what the imposter syndrome is. I think they just say it as an excuse for maybe feeling a little bit uncomfortable or a bit nervous, or, you know, a bit worried about a certain meeting, or a bit worried about a certain project. So they'll say this, so it stops people asking them questions, or it stops you know, anybody giving them more challenges. It's like in a way, we're wearing it as a badge, we're wearing it as a label, and we're wearing Little Miss Perfect as a label as well, and the two things go together. So if we're always trying to be brilliant at everything, the best boss, the best team player, the best mum at the school gate, the best friend, the best neighbor, the best wife, the best partner, then, you know, of course we're gonna like make mistakes. Of course we're gonna fail. Of course sometimes things aren't going to work out. And at that point, we put the imposter syndrome badge on ourselves. So the thing is, I think we need to accept that we're human, that we have flaws, that we have faults, that sometimes we make mistakes, and actually embrace all of that, because it's who we are. And that's where you learn. That's where you learn who you are. That's when you develop. That's when you make a shift. You know, you don't actually learn very much about yourself when you're riding high on success. You know, because you're riding high on success and you're enjoying all the benefits of that, whatever that might mean to you. You only learn when you kind of fall off that, where things don't quite actually go to plan. That's when you've got to ask the questions. That's when you've got to review. That's when you've got to do the kind of internalization of what happened there. Can I do that better next time? Am I just doing the wrong thing? Is it never going to get better because I'm doing the wrong thing? And we should be asking ourselves those questions rather than sticking a badge on it. Ask the questions of yourself. You know, when these things happen, and you, before you even say those words, imposter syndrome, ask the questions. Sit with yourself and say, okay, what is happening here? Am I trying to be this Miss Perfect? Is it because I want everybody in this room to like me? Is it because I'm a bit worried about something? I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, and that's absolutely fine. I want you to step out your comfort zone. I want you to live your best life. And that means sometimes it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, you know, and then you'll ride again. And then it'll get a little bit uncomfortable again, and then you'll ride again. So just sit with yourself more and ask the questions rather than grabbing that label. That would be my advice.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. Does anybody else have a question before I go again?
You all look very serious.
Yeah, I've got one. Hiya, Jane.
Hiya.
You okay?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you for that. That was quite inspiring. I am thinking from a perspective of getting involved. I was brought up in care. And for a while, actually, I've wanted to get involved in the kind of the type of work you do. So women that face issues or maybe are vulnerable, and just offer that support from a perspective of, I've kind of been in that situation. It's quite difficult to speak about. I don't often sort of speak about it, especially publicly. But I think when I came to your event last year, Michaela, and I met Maggie, I briefly spoke to Maggie and I said, I think I'm ready to kind of share that and kind of help others. And then and I had to nip out because I took my little boy to nursery. But so I missed the first bit, but I caught on at the end, and I just thought it sounds really good. And it sounds, especially going into schools. I was an athlete for Team GB, and I did a lot of schools, like talks in schools, but more for the boxing, with groups of other athletes. So it's something that I'm interested in, potentially supporting and helping in that. So I found it really inspiring.
I say two things to you, and I think Maggie will probably say the same thing to you as well, in that when you're going to share a personal journey, what's really important is that you know how you survived that journey. Not that you did, because you clearly did, because you're here, but how you survived it, because it's the lessons are in the how. And I see lots of people sharing their story that are still in it, okay? And they're in it to the point that they're not inspiring other people when they tell that story, they're actually depressing them. They're making them feel, oh my God, poor woman. You know, I've seen many people do this. And so you walk away feeling like, oh, she's amazing that she survived that, but oh my God, what a dreadful life. And that's not what you want people to think, is it? You want people to think, oh, what an amazing woman, how she did that. You know, when she talked about this and she said that, and, you know, and that how she did that at that point. So I would ask you to just think about that. Think about the story. You obviously got a powerful story. You obviously survived a very traumatic time. And that story would resonate with a lot of girls, but you have to share it in the right way. You have to make sure that you know what you learned from that journey. So, you know, it taught me this about myself. I learned this. At this point, I had a choice of doing that and that, and I chose this because. So it's like the journey, it's the how. So I won't go anywhere near young people until you've nailed that, because what you don't want is to be sending them off actually depressed and anxious and upset. What you want to be doing is sending them off motivated and inspired, that if you can survive that, they can survive anything that's going on for them.
Yeah, I think as well, it's about them as well. When they're young, they like, I mean, I've helped sort of just close family and friends in the past, and I think that people have been able to open up because I've been through it. So they can relate. So it kind of gets me in the door, because sometimes they don't want to speak, or they're not comfortable, and they don't want to speak to the parents. So I've done it for family and friends, just speaking and helping and opening up that, you know, I've been through similar things, and, you know, here's what we can do, and just helping in that way. So I think
that's what a role model is, isn't it? That's what a role model does. A role model shares their journey in the hope of helping the girl open up and share hers, and have that space to do it. So email me after the call.
Okay, brilliant.
Go onto the website, have a look at what we do, and an email from the website, and I will get it, and we'll have a chat.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Jane.
Hi.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring. I'm interested a little bit in your second act, where you kind of decided to take 6 months out to add, I guess, more, broaden your horizon more than anything. I've kind of seen a gap in the market in my industry where I feel like I could grow into a business. And I found it really interesting how you said to focus more on what comes so naturally to you, rather than focusing on where you're, I guess, finding more value in the things that you find hard. And I've lately been doing that, and I've just kind of been sitting with myself, like you said, and make an observation of where my key strengths are rather than where I'm weak at. And I kind of semi-agree, I guess, with this adopting, I guess, what you mentioned is imposter syndrome. So I've kind of gone through waves of observing myself, and something I'm interested in is understanding is how much added value did you obtain going through this 6 months of adding, I guess, more skills to yourself, and how did that affect how you started to mentor people or to give advice to people, and what did that do to yourself in terms of observing who you are as a person, and how you can kind of exploit your strengths, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I've always been into personal development. So personal development is like a religion to me. So I've always done the courses, read the books, been to see the big gurus. When I was traveling, I did the Tony Robbins University in San Diego. I'm a big fan of Oprah. I meditate, I do all sorts of things, and I always have. So I've always had a lot of self-awareness. I've always known who I am, and what I'm capable of, and what my core values are, and what my core belief system is. So I kind of know a lot about myself. So I knew when I was in my second act, I knew I had to get off. I knew I had to get off that wheel. I knew if I didn't, I was gonna, be ill. So I knew I needed to stop doing that, and I knew I needed to find something excuse me, that was cause related, okay, heart driven rather than head. Because I've been using my head all the way through my teens, my 20s and my 30s. So everything I'd done was kind of, head, right brain, business to business, big corporates. So I kind of knew how that worked. And that was what was kind of killing me, if you like. That was what was leading me to the point of, I'm exhausted, I can't do this anymore, because I was constantly out of flow. So my flow is all about helping other people grow. That is my flow. And my flow is very much a social dynamic. So it's talking, it's sharing, it's speaking, it's doing all of those kind of things. That's me in flow. When I'm doing that, you put me on a stage in front of 5,000 people, I would be in flow. Okay, for most people that would be like, oh my God, no, that is natural for me. That is something that I do and I love. And people would say, oh, you don't get nervous. Well, yeah, of course I do, because that's called adrenaline. But that is me in flow. Okay, me sat in an office in front of a screen looking at a spreadsheet is me a very, very unhappy chick. That is me completely out of flow. Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of ask a question about that, because I think culturally, in terms of work environment, we're kind of from a young age taught to write things down and make notes and create documents. And I remember reading a book. Rick Owens is a musician, and he says he's literally got no skills in playing any musical instruments, but he's an incredibly successful producer. And I feel like on a day-to-day basis, I interact with people face to face all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm adding so much value to their businesses. And I just think to myself, what's stopping me from providing a consultancy, for example, for construction industry, where they really need to know how to bid for projects. But then what I find really hard is the documenting parts. And I guess what I wanted to ask you is, in the nature of your job, do you have to produce a lot of documents? And because I feel like that really stops my flow. But people see value in documents. How do you persuade people that documenting isn't always
well, if the document's part of the job, then I would just find somebody else to do it. So I'm bored, I have a team. I accept that sometimes I might have to do something that's out of flow, my accounts. There's not anybody else really can sit and do that. That's kind of I have to do financial control of my business.
Yeah.
You know, and I accept that I need to do that, but that's okay because I know that most of the rest of the time I can do what is flow to me. So, you know, there's nothing perfect. Okay. Don't go for perfect. It doesn't exist in anything. So when you start something, you might have to do stuff that you think, you know, this is not what Jane was talking about. But actually, that buys you the opportunity to do what you want to do. So it's like you've got to take the wins. So you've got to say, you know, if I look at my diary on a week by week basis, I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be in flow. I can go, right, okay, that's going to be me in flow. I'm going to love doing that. That's me in flow in front of a class of 95 girls. I'm going to love doing that. I've got a meeting with my accountant there. Maybe not so much, but you know, that's part of that's part of what we do. So, and you're right about school. You know, we are taken out of flow from a very young age because we're put into this sausage factory called education, and we've got to do maths, English, we've got to do a language, we've got to do a science. We have to do it in a certain way. And so, you know, if you're a creative person, for instance, that's a killer, because it actually stamps out any level of creativity. If you're somebody that's good at talking, that's also a killer because you're constantly told to shut up, stop chatting, stop doing this. So we're taken out of flow. And then the same thing happens to us at university. And then the same thing happens to us in work, because we have to do this job. And this job, you know, we might, let's say we're good at sales, and we get a job in sales and we're brilliant and we get promoted to a sales manager. Now we're not selling. Now we're managing other people that are selling. So we've gone from being the best person at our job and being in flow to actually sat behind a desk bored and out of flow. But that's how the world works. That's how we promote people. Instead of taking that salesperson and saying, you are amazing at this job, I'm going to pay you more money to do it, because I want to keep you in this job. I'm going to pay you more money to do it. And I'm going to see how I can get you to train other people to do what you do. I want you to be responsible for training them, recruiting them, and getting people in the same flow that you're in. We don't do that. The next job up takes you out of flow. My husband is an ex-copper. He talks about this perfectly because he was a police officer in the 70s, and he loved being out doing the job. And he kept getting promoted. And the higher up the ladder he went, the less of the job he did. So he ended up retiring early because he was bored. Yeah. So all this expertise, all this wisdom about the job, we lost. And we're doing it all the time in businesses. Quite a lot of you are talking about going out and doing something for yourself. That for me tells me that you are not valued in the world that you're working in, and nor are you in flow. Because if you were, you would be happy and you will be doing what you love, and you will be getting paid for that and valued for that. And, you know, I have two thoughts on that. One, it's a shame that we keep losing women from these prime sectors. But on the other hand, I think, well, that's the sector's responsibility because they're losing you. So the sector needs to get their act together here and work out why it's losing women. And I have to tell you that this isn't just your industry, this is every single industry. So I work in the insurance industry, the professions, I work in engineering, I work in all the services. And there comes to a certain point in a woman's career and she's making these decisions. And a high percentage of them are leaving. And that is a serious issue because it means we've got less and less women in there to get to the top, to change the game, because we have to be in it to change it. And the more of us that leave, the less of us there are to get to the top to change it. So it's a real issue, you know, and what I would say to you is while you're in there, you need to be a pioneer, but don't stay in something that's making you unhappy. But try first to see if you can be the pioneer and make a difference. And if you can't, get out and make a difference within the sector. But, you know, that flow needs to be around 70–80% of your working day. Accepting that there's no such thing as perfect, and some days you need to do stuff you've got to do, and some days you might rock and roll, and other days it's like, oh, I've got all these emails to send and I've got this to do and I've got that to do. That's fine for me because I know that within 3 hours I'm going to be back in flow, or the day after I'll be back in flow, because I know what that means to me. And also, if any of you are interested, I work with a profile test called Wealth Dynamics. And wealth dynamics is a 20-minute test, and it will define what your flow is. So if you're thinking, I don't quite know what this is, 20 minutes, 80 questions, it will tell you what your flow is. And if you're interested in that, again, drop me an email.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
I had another question for you, Jane, with regards to, I'm going to do that wealth dynamic thing as well, just to say
Good.
if
Yeah.
I'm in flow,
Yeah.
who knows? I feel like I am, but who knows? I'll feel a bit shit today, but most days. When you're saying, like currently you're going in the schools, and I know you partner women up with the girls, obviously this isn't out of choice, I guess, for the girls. This is something that the schools implemented.
No.
What I find with women, or do they pick to do it?
No, they're not picked to do it. They put their hand up. And it's really important that they do that. I won't work with any girl that's been picked. She has to put her hand up. In the same way that you have to put your hand up, she has to put her hand up. And I promise you, they, you know, in a room of 100 girls, when I talk about what a big sister is, you know, that she's a woman that's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, she's going to come into school, she's going to have an hour with you every month because she wants to. She's going to, you know, give you the opportunity to share what you want to share about your life, what's going on at home, what's going on in school, what's going on with your friends, your health, whatever. It's all confidential apart from duty of care. And you know, the most important things about it is she's never going to judge you. She's only going to be here to listen to you. She's on your side, and she believes in you 100% before she's even met you. And I asked the room who wants a big sister, and guess what happens? You know, about 80% of the girls put their hand up, and then we start a process of filter. So they put their hand up from day one, and then we have to get those girls down to 20. And we're really honest and transparent with the girls, and we ask them more information, and we ask them to fill in different forms, and we get them down to 25. And then we get parental consent, and then off we go.
Right. Okay. So it's perhaps more closely related than with the question that I had. I work with women who say, you know, they want to change, they want to be inspired, they want to take the risk, they want to take the next step, whatever it is. But then when it comes down to it, they don't, or they do want to, but they don't want to do the difficult thing. So I'm guessing it's more challenging when you're working with young girls, because nobody really knows what they want at that age or where they're going, and especially given the chaos that you're saying on. So if you're working with them for a small amount of time and they've got these chaotic environments, where they're being taught something completely different than what you're saying. I wondered, number one, what is the success rate? Do you measure that? Do you see the girls go off into the real world? And how do you keep them, I guess, focused and on track when you're dealing with so much more external noise? How do you keep them focused on this is the right path? This is the path that you want, that you chose and you wanted to do. How do you make it a reality for them?
Okay, so a few things there. So we're working with girls that are 12 to 13. So this whole thing about what I want to do when I leave school, all of that is a little bit is further down the line. What my key is to get them empowered so that they then make those choices from a much different place. So they're 12, 13, and they're sitting in two different niches. So the girls that are really troubled, at risk, they go on a different program. They don't go on a mentoring program. They go on a coaching program. They work with professional coaches for all the reasons that you just said, because this needs to be people that can unpick and deconstruct a lot of what's going on in their life. This is women that kind of have got a coaching process, that understand that, can ask the right questions, that understand that they're going to get chairs thrown at them, that they're going to get sworn at, you know, that these girls are going to put them through a test to see if they can trust them because they've been let down by lots of adults in their life. So they're going to test them. So these are power coaches that understand those girls, and they are qualified coaches, and then they've done a course with me. So that's the tough girls that you were talking about. The girls that get a big sister mentor are middle girls. So middle girls are like the forgotten cohort. These are the girls that are lost. These are the girls that are neither the really at-risk girls over here, nor the gifted and talented girls over here. So they sit in the middle and they cruise, and they get very little teacher attention because the teacher attention goes to those extremes. So they can literally be in a class or a year and teachers don't even know their name. So, you know, they get kind of called things like the grey girls or the invisibles or the wallflowers. Or, you know, I've heard some horrific terms from teachers calling those girls things like rhinos, so really hearing name only, or radiators in the room switched on but nobody notices them. These are the middle girls. So these are the girls that we put on our Big Sister program, and these are the girls that literally need somebody on their team. These are the girls that will open up quite naturally once you're in rapport with them, and we teach our Big Sisters how to get in rapport fast. So we're in rapport now, and now it's their chance to talk to us, and they talk to us about what's happening in their life, what's going on for them. We will eventually get to options and what they want to do, but actually that probably takes us 6 months. The key is to get into rapport with them, and so they trust us, and then we have conversations, and some days we might be having conversations about Harry Styles, and other days we might be having conversations about the maths teacher, and other days we might be having conversations about friends. Friends is a biggie. Friends is a real biggie. So those girls come ready to talk because they don't really have anybody to talk to about that stuff, because they're quite invisible in the kind of teaching world. And, you know, when you're that age, to be honest, and somebody mentioned this earlier, you're not really talking to your mum about some of this stuff. And that doesn't mean that you don't love your mum. It doesn't mean that you don't care about your mum. It just means that you might be a bit embarrassed to talk to your mum about boys. You might be a bit worried that she might not let you out if she knows what's on your phone. You might be worried that she might not let you be with certain friends if she knows what those certain friends are doing. She might be mortified if she sees the imagery that you've been sent by the boys in your class on your phone. So she's not talking to mum about any of this stuff, but she will talk to us. And when she talks to us, we can then help her kind of navigate this and make better decisions and better choices. So number one, she makes the choice to be on that program. She's jumping up and down wanting to be on that program. She comes ready to engage because she's not engaging with anybody else. And we have the opportunity to help her make better decisions and better choices. Do we see a difference? Absolutely. Within 3 to 4 months for some of those girls. If they turn up painfully shy, they're not painfully shy within 3 or 4 months. They found their voice. You know, do we track them as much as we possibly can? But bear in mind, they're so young when we work with them, we're not allowed to keep direct contact with them. We can only keep direct contact with a girl from the age of 16. So from the age of 12 to 16, we're relying on the school to feed back information to us. Some are great at it, some aren't. And then at 16, we attempt to reconnect. So we probably stay in touch with about 30% of the girls that are on our program. We know lots of them that have gone to uni that we never would have done. We know lots of them that have gone on to apprenticeship programs doing really well. We know several of them that are now entrepreneurs. So if I think about the first group of girls that I worked with that were the baptism of fire for me, these were the girls that were written off. So these are the really, really complex girls, you know, that you really need very, very thick skin to work with, and you need a lot of tools. And so they were all kind of written off in school, and 3 of them are now teachers, because bear in mind they're now 30, 31. 3 of them are teachers, 2 of them are entrepreneurs, 1 of them's a midwife. 1 of them's a fine artist, had her stuff in the Tate. 1 of them runs a community cafe on the estate she lives in. So they've all really made some amazing choices, and quite a few of them have come back into the organisation as role models, as big sisters. So that's the kind of impact that we have, because these girls need that space and they don't have it in school. And, you know, they need an adult that they don't have any other relationship with, that they can talk openly with, because they don't talk to the teachers or the mums or the grandmas. And I always kind of like define us as like cool aunts. You know, did you all have a cool aunt? You know, that aunt that you went to that you had the conversations with that you didn't have with your mum. Because I was always a cool aunt to my nieces. So I was the person that they would talk to about boys. I was the person that they would talk to about stuff that if they told the mum, she might be really disappointed in them. So we're kind of channeling that cool aunt, really. And yes, we see massive impact.
Oh, that's amazing. Thanks, Jane. And thanks so much for your time today. It's been, your story's super inspirational, and it's so great to see what you're giving back to the world as well. I think I was one of the middle girls at school. I wasn't the naughtiest, I wasn't the best, I was just somewhere in. But I did have a voice. I didn't shut up to.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you did.
It was probably a bit annoying. But so lastly as well, how can people get involved in this if you do want to be a big sister?
So if you want to be a big sister or get involved in Girls Out Loud, just go along to girlsoutloud.org.uk. If you want to do your wealth profile or talk to me about coaching or anything like that, then email me directly, which is Jane, Jane, at Jane-Kenyon, KENYON.com.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Jane. And does anybody else want to say anything before we wrap up? Speak now, forever hungry bees. No, okay. Right, okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, Jane.
Okay, thank you all. Enjoyed it. Yeah, enjoyed it. Hope to speak to some of you soon. Okay.